It wasn't the prettiest one, but Arsenal get it done versus Chelsea. They're heading to the Carabao Cup final. This is just a great day to be an Arsenal fan. Like I said, this was not a pretty game, really, for both Chelsea fans, Arsenal fans, and neutral fans. There was just really not much in this game. I felt like the first half was just teams really, both of them just feeling each other out. Now, I'll get into this later, but I felt like Arsenal had a little bit more of an excuse for that because, again, you were up, one goal within the tie. You're also at home. There's more pressure on Chelsea in this situation. So it made sense why Arsenal weren't being as attacking. But what Chelsea did, specifically in the first half, was just shocking. And I will talk about that at the end of the video. But really, it was just the overall game was just not – there wasn't much really to discuss. There just wasn't. Chelsea didn't have many chances. Arsenal had a few here and there, but it was really nothing. There just really wasn't much to take from this game until the end. The main moment, of course, was when Arsenal were in transition. Declan Rice has a beautiful, and I mean beautiful pass. One of the best passes I've ever seen him have. It somehow gets over to Kai Havertz. There's really no one else to save it. He makes a little move past Sanchez, and he scores. And he puts, the game away. The game was already really over at that point, but that sealed it. There was no way Chelsea were going to get another 2 goals within that, amount of short time. And it just felt good to see that one for Kai. It felt really, really good. Obviously him, showing the badge and everything just shows that he really is here to be, an Arsenal man. Gave it to his old club. Another time where he's been able to dunk on Chelsea. Again, we're going to remember that goal against Chelsea a couple years ago in 2023, and we're going to remember that goal, obviously, today. So there was a lot to take from this one, but mainly it was just really the fact that there was not a lot to take from this one, there wasn't much to take from this one, but at least the finish was interesting. But as a neutral fan, I can totally understand why this game would be more of a bore for you, because there just really wasn't much there to talk about on a tactical standpoint. There really just wasn't much there. When it comes to Arsenal, I thought that Declan Rice and Hincapié were really the best 2 players that I saw. Declan Rice, we don't need to go into it. He does this every single game. He just covers so much of the field, does so much for the team, both in the attacking and defending standpoints for the team. He just does so much. When it comes to Hincapié, I just thought he did a great job of, playing his role, shutting down any attack that ever was there for Chelsea. Not that there was much, but he just did a great job of staying on his attackers and really just not allowing them any chance to create anything. And again, he's had some shaky moments, but overall I felt pretty good about him. But just seeing him again be kind of put in this situation, it's not like this was a low pressure situation. This was to go to a final, the first final that Arsenal had been to since 2020. So there was still some pressure going into today, and just seeing the fact that he actually stood up to the challenge and really conquered the challenge and didn't even think twice about it was a great thing to see as an Arsenal fan. As I just said, this was Arsenal's first final that they're now going to be competing in since 2020 when Mikel Arteta won the FA Cup. It's honestly crazy to think about that Arsenal haven't been in this, in this point, but regardless, we're here. It doesn't matter how long the journey has taken, but they're here. And I'm just so glad that this club has the opportunity to finally get something that really will actually, resonate with the entire football world. Obviously, it's not a Premier League, it's not a Champions League, it's not even an FA Cup, but it's still a trophy, something that they can, finally be like, hey, we actually won something. You can't say we didn't, get any silverware. We finally, hopefully, win something. But I'm just glad that the club is finally in this position. Everything's been coming together this year, with all the signings, with some of the results. Yes, we've had some hiccups here and there, but it still feels like Arsenal's year. And I think this would just really be the start of that, especially if they were able to go win that final. And kind of just transitioning off of that, is this the start of something bigger? And I'm not even going to hide from it. We still have to go try to win the Prem. We still have to go try to win the UCL. We still have to go try to win the FA Cup. But I just feel like this would be such a great way to kind of kick off that campaign. Yes, the campaign's been going on, but this is really what solidifies what Arsenal have been building for, is by finally getting that trophy and then, again, building off of that. Arsenal can still win 4 potential trophies this year. Do I think they're going to win all 4? Let's be honest, no. But it's still, it's still a possibility. As of right now, it is still a possibility. And even getting the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup, either or would be great. Obviously, you want to prioritize the Premier League and, of course, the UCL. But still getting these competitions matters. And again, that's where I am, I guess, just so disgusted with Chelsea. Like, it just didn't feel like that they were really playing in, a Carabao Cup game that was going to allow them to qualify for a final. It just didn't feel like that. And transitioning into Chelsea, I just have a couple things to say. First off, why was Liam Delap on the right? Why? This guy's been struggling as a striker, and now he's going to play the wing. Interesting. I didn't like that, especially for how Delap of a player is. It's just not his. That's just not what he does. It's not what he does. They started the game with 5 defenders. You had Esteval and Cole Palmer on the bench, and you didn't sub them in till late. And this is where I want to give Rafinha some, maybe, not, I'm trying to think of the word, some slack, I guess, just because, again, he's a young manager, but obviously he has some experience. But really, when you look at this entire situation for Chelsea, we know that the board makes decisions on who can be played, how long they can play, etc., etc. Yes, I'm assuming the board had a ton of say in, Palmer and Esteval coming on in the second half. But at the same time, if that really is the case and that goes for the board, or if he greenlit that and that was his choice, what was the thought process? You're trying to go to a final. You're down 1 goal within the tie. You're on, you're on the road. You're going to the opposing team's place. Why are you playing this like you're tied? I don't know. I mean, obviously we know if that's what Chelsea were trying to do, behind the scenes, that's the strings that they were trying to pull. I guess so, but just watching it did not make sense to me. I understand even if they wanted to go kind of like that in the first half, I still really wouldn't have done it. But like, okay, let's say they start the first half and instantly Palmer and Esteval are on. But that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. I just didn't understand what Chelsea were trying to do. I didn't understand what Rafinha was, I guess, trying to do. I feel like he's had some decent moments so far in his campaign as the Chelsea manager, but this felt like a low for him. And last, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Newcastle are playing Manchester City. I'm assuming City are going to go through, but you never know. This is an interesting fixture. I feel like these teams always play each other pretty tough. So we'll just have to see, but you really don't know. I don't know. Newcastle have been struggling in the league. City have been struggling in the league. We'll just have to see. But regardless, Arsenal are going to play one of those teams. Obviously, I think it would be a little bit more fitting if they played City just from a storybook standpoint. Like if they can finally overcome City, that would be great. And there's a potential that in April, depending on how the Champions League goes, and if City wins tomorrow, that Arsenal would Arsenal would play City 3 times. I think in like a span of like 2 weeks or something in April, which would be nuts. But we're not going to get too ahead of ourselves. That's way in the future. I just wanted to talk about this game because this was such an interesting game. It was such a big game as well for Arsenal. And again, we'll see what happens with the matchups in the future. But just really wanted to talk about this. There wasn't a ton to, analyze. There really just wasn't, because it really wasn't that eventful of a game. The first leg was way better. But hey, I'm super proud of this club for getting to a final. They're finally in this, no pun intended, they're finally in this position to go and get some silverware, potentially dethroning Manchester City on the way there. We'll just have to see, but it just felt like a great night for Arsenal because, again, everything that they've been building for as a club is finally coming together. Again, we still need to get the bigger things done, but this would be one of those pieces that would really cement Arsenal as finally arriving and finally showing up and actually seizing the moment. That's all I had in this one. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like. Drop your thoughts down below in the comment section. TikTok will be in the description down below. And if you're interested in any Arsenal or other football content, feel free to subscribe. We're going to be continuing to break down really anything Prem, UCL, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, all that type of stuff. We'll be breaking it down. And again, if you made it this far into the video, I greatly, greatly appreciate you. And I will see you guys on the next one. Peace, guys.